We'll do a review on Lakut Sichas in Chelek Chof. This is the second Sicha for the portion of Chayei Sara. In this Sicha, the Rebbe explains his father's note on the Zohar. The Zohar, when he talks about Teshuvah, and he says Teshuvah happens instantly versus a tzaddik that goes step by step, but a Teshuvah instantly. He uses three languages. He uses the language in one while, in one day, and one instant. The order, a day is bigger than a while, and a while is bigger than an instant. So it should have been in a orderly fashion. And why do we need all of them? The Rebbe's father explains, according to the Kabbalah, and over there the order fits. But the Rebbe says in the Pashat, it also has to fit in the pshat as the simple meaning of it. And the Rebbe goes through explaining that sometimes longer, with more length, is because of the depth of it. And over there, the longer is better, but sometimes shorter is better, as the Rebbe will explain, and that's how we will explain these three madregas in the spheres, how it all fits in. I'm just giving you an outline, but we'll go step by step in the Sikha inside. Aleph. In Zoyar beParshosenu, in the Zoyar, in our Parsha is Mevuer, eine von the Meiles von Balei Tshuva of Tzadikim Gemurim. One of the advantages of Baal Tshuva from Balei Tshuva over Tzadikim Gemurim, that by Tzadikim Gemurim is the Avodah Baliyah B'Seder V'Hadroga Miyom Liyom. By them, the service is they elevate in an orderly and step by step from day to day. Midarge ledarge, they go from step to step. The Ashteit beParsha Seinu, as in our Parsha, it's written, V'Avram Zokin Bo Bayomim. He came with the days, every day, Bo Bayomim. Same thing is in the Haftorah of this week. We say, V'Melech David Zokein Bo Bayomim. Bo Bayomim is coming with the days. Every day in a Seder does its work. And you come, accumulation of all the days in a orderly way from step to step. Biz Zekumen Tzu Ba'avedosim, until they reach with their service to Tachlis Hakiru V'Advekes B'Kodesh Baruch Hu, to the ultimate total closeness and cleaving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a tzaddik, step by step. Hashem Kain, Bali Tshuva says the Zoyar is, and this is the language of the Zoyar, B'Shaita Choda, that happens in one while, B'Yoyma Choda, it can happen in one day, and it can happen B'Riga Choda in 1 second, 1 instant. Krivin L'Kaba Kodesh V'Richa, they become close to the Eibishter. In one while, in 1 day, and in 1 instant, they can become close to Hashem. That's the Maila of a Baal Tshuva. Stellt sich auf dem der Tati in seiner Ore, so my father, Agon Reb Levi Yitzchok, in his notes on the Zoyar, fragt, he asks, L'chayrehu shaloi al haseder, this seems to be out of order. Ki have le'lemein, but he should have said, Yoima, a day, that's the longest period. You can take a day to get close to Hashem. It can take a shaita next, a while, less than a day, but a while to get close. It can take a rega, even an instant. Each one of this would be a novelty before the other one. But in the way, not only does it take a day to get close to Hashem by Baal Tshuva, not only does it take a while, but even an instant. And also, Gam, another question, Im dai berega, if it's sufficient 1 instant, berega chodo, 1 instant, leiza tzedich amar shaita v'yoyma. So for why does he have to say a while in a day? He could have just said that the Maila of about Shuva that in one instant, berega choda, kreven legava kutzabricha. Why mention shaita choda yom echad? So he explains according to the Kabbalah on his Mevayer. This is the Rebbe's father Mevayer in the Haaretz and the Zohar. That yesh loymar yesh gimel b'chinas tshuva. There is three levels of tshuva. Hamagim. There's a tshuva that reaches to the level of the malchus, and soon we'll translate it also in more practical terms. And bezo, tshuva that reaches to the level of zeir ampin bezo, and then the tshuva that goes in bina. As written in Likutei Torah in the Maimed that begins with Matoiva, look in there. What does it say over there? So the Rebbe explains it a little bit more based on the Maimer. As a Sizdo Adarge in Tshuva, one level, one step in Tshuva, Vasinyoni Surmera, doing Tshuva to stay away from evil, from doing bad. Bazi is Magia b'Malchus. That level of Surmera reaches to the level of Malchus. There's a higher level of tshuva. Vasir inyan is vasei toiv. That is, go do good. Umagia bezo, that reaches into zo. Usidon nocha hechere tshuva. There's even a higher tshuva. Vasinyono is bake sholim. Surmeira say toiv bake sholim. You're doing tshuva to surmeira. You're doing tshuva to say toiv. You're doing tshuva to bake sholim, which is limud ha-Torah. Umagia bebina, that reaches bina. So the Rebbe explains in the bracket, the level, there's three levels of tshuva. The tshuva of malchus, zoh, and bina, which is surmeira, say toiv and bakishol. Zoh, and this the Rebbe's father says, the Rebbe Levi says, that the shaito, when we say a while, that's the malchus. That's in the level of malchus. Hanikra Shah, that's called Shah. Time, an hour. That's Shaita, a while. That's the lowest level, that's Malchus. Then comes Beyoima. Beyoima, one step up, is Bezo, next step, that's Beyoima. And Hanikra Yoim, because Zoh is called Yoim. It's Gilu Yoim versus Choshech Laila. Not going into explain now the Kabbalah here, but Zoh is called Yoim. The Rebbe's father says that. And Berega, an instant is Bibino. So it comes out that according to this, you're doing, the Rebbe's father's answer is, you're going in an order of Malchus, which is Shaita, Zo Chode Yoimo, and then Bina, which is Rega. Okay, that would be an explanation if it seems that the Rebbe's father is just trying to say, answer it according to the Kabbalah. But we still have a problem over here. How do we fit this in the Poshet Pshat? And also, the timing doesn't seem to fit the Madrega. Bina, the highest Madrega, should be the shortest period of time. But over here, over here, then we have Zo, should be maybe B'Shaita, and Malchus should be Yoim. So it doesn't go not milmat l'mad l'mor. Let's look inside. Base. Ashkofer is showing us that is first read this. It appears as Leuten Biur from Taten that according to explanation from father, Vert mit die drei Lishoines with these three languages B'Shaita B'Yoyma Berega. These three languages, a while, day, and the instant. Beiker gemeint. It's mainly meant nicht zu bezeichnen die drei verschiedene shiurim, not to point out the different measures in zman b'pashtus, in time b'pashtus, what it takes to do tshuva, but the drei madreges, we're talking about the three levels. Und Tshuva, wie sie seine Merumas, and the Tshuva as it's hinted in Shaita Malchus, Yoime Zon Regabina. So we're not talking about the time here, and we're talking about Madregas. Und der Fall ist recht, and that's why it makes sense, was er stehen in Zohar mit dem Seder, why it says in the Zohar in this order. But das ist lefi Seder HaMadregas, Milmata Lemailo. This is the order, the way it goes from below to above, from Malchus to Zot to Bina. So it seems like the answer is, we're not talking about time, we're not talking about the duration of time, we're talking about levels. And in levels it fits. So aber nicht glattig also to learn it. That's not smooth to learn it this way. And in every idea has to be understood simply, literally. So therefore we need to accept as the drei tshuvas anal, that these three levels of tshuvas was eine magim, the malchus bizo bebino, that reach malchus zo and bino, is jederer von sei verbunden mit dem bestimmten Zman kipshute. Each one of them is tied to that specific time, literally, which means that malchus zo and bino, which is surmera seitoiv and baki sholim, the time that it takes for each of these tshuva is associated with the physical time. The tshuva for surmeira, which is a malchus, was is magia be malchus, tutzich oif, that was accomplished in time b'shaita choda. Time fits that because it takes just an instant for that, a while. It takes a while. The hechere darge in tshuva v'aseitoiv, the higher level in tshuva v'aseitoiv, was is magia bezo, that reaches to the level of zo. In them, zman for yom choda. So that takes in them zman for yom, that takes a yom choda, it takes a day. Und der höchste Darge, Baki Sholem, Teura, was is Magia Bebina, the highest, which is Baki Sholem, which is Magia Bebina, that takes a Rega Chavla. So basically, we have to say that while it works in the order, but it does fit with the time that it takes. That Malchus takes Shaita Choda, Zo, the tshuva in Zo takes Yom Choda, and the tshuva in Bina, the Baki Sholem, takes Riga Choda. So the Rebbe says the time over here, how we associate them with the level of tshuva is somewhat problematic. We understand about tshuva jumps the level, not like the tzaddik goes step by step, he jumps the level. But then how do we tie these different levels to the time that it takes to do tshuva? Darf man verstehen. Das, was about tshuva is miyad a'ol v'is dabek b'kutche b'richu, that about tshuva immediately goes up and connects, cleaves to the kutche b'richu, is while the tshuva, the tenua from tshuva, that movement of tshuva is be'etzem tchunos hecher from seder v'hadroge. Its characteristic in essence is higher than order and step. That's why it's tshuva happens right away, immediately. Being earlier in a level which was not good, geiter durch tshuva iber. So then through tshuva he goes over, but derech kefitza v'dilug, in a way of jumping and skipping over minakotza lakotza, from one extreme to the other extreme. He was no good, and then he becomes good. This is a jump from one extreme to the other extreme. From a matzav hafchi, from a opposites condition, situation, to kiyum ha-Torah mitzvahs udvekes b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to observance of Torah mitzvahs and connecting to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Und wie bald as das kommt von Azat nur in Nefesh, since this comes from such a movement in the soul, which is not mugbal in Seder v'Hadraga, which is not limited to order in a step by step, the Riber is das nicht verbunden mit der Meshach Zaman. That's why this is not tied to any duration of time. Nor miyad always abakhulu, immediately connects. So when we're saying that immediately doesn't take any time, it comes from a higher part in the soul. It's not a place in the soul where there's orderly, so it doesn't take any time. You jump over one extreme to the other extreme. So that would be if everything would happen automatically. But we do give her some limitation. We give her some time frame. We give her some duration. Wie kommt es, how come, as the hechere darge von Tshuva, which is Asay Tov, was kommt durch a tiefere Risoides Tshuva, comes from a higher level of Tshuva, soll yes sein verbunden mit der Hemshech Zman. Why is it a duration of time if it should be immediately? Why does it take time? Why is it take Yom Echada? Why does it take a full day? Why is it not in the middle? Al derech zeh is the shayla eich benigeya the spheres l'mayla. Same thing is also with regards to the spheres themselves above. It says Yodua as ali inyonim sheba'ilam hazeh, when everything in this world v'em nimshach v'nishtalshen, they extend, they evolve, and that's why they're similar from the Olamais Shalamayla to the worlds above. So, since this world evolves and comes and it's similar to the worlds of above, meaning that what's here below is connected. Nochmer, the kavona v'tach, not only is it similar, the goal, the intent, and the goal from the Olam Yonim is Olam Hazatachten. That's the purpose of the upper worlds, is this world. So it's not only that we do evolve, we happen to evolve, or we do evolve, and we're similar, but that's the purpose, is to evolve from it, that we come, and that the Olam Hazatachten Yonim are there so that the Olam Hazat should evolve from it. Is wie stimmt das? So how could it fit? Was the hechere madrege zo, the level of zo, wird angerufen Yoima. That's called Yoim. Yoim. Und the niedrige Darge, Malchus, which is lower, should be called Shaita. That's a while. Be'ez, as Yoima is a lengerer Shir Zman. Yoimer is a lengthier time. A lengthy time means that it's more in time, more invested in time. It's more connected to time because it takes time. Weiter from the Malmasman, that means that it's further away from being higher than time. It's fully in time. It takes a full day. Vishaita, it should be longer. Shaita, 1 while. Malchus, which is the lower level, is 1 while. So how come Zo, which is higher, is more invested and lengthier and bigger in time than Yoma? So while we answered in the Spheres, it's Malchus Zo, but that alone is the question. A, why is there time altogether? But second, why is Malchus an instant and Zo is a day? It seems like it should be the other way around. And actually, the Rebbe doesn't say it here, but as we'll see from the Rebbe's answer, Bina is like a one rega. It's a higher level. We understand that. But what are we going to do? So maybe it should be the rega, Shah and Yoima. But over here, the Malchus, the Yoima doesn't fit in. Like the Rebbe's father asked about the literally, why is it in that order? The Rebbe will basically explain it doesn't always mean when we say that it's longer, that longer literally means that it's on a lower level than that which is shorter. Sometimes longer is a higher level. Within the same level, longer and shorter, longer can be a higher level. Within a different level, relative to a level, in other words, the longer and the shorter in Zohar and Malchus are still related to each other. Over there, longer is greater than shorter. We'll see in the Rebbe's explanation. Bina over there, shorter is greater than longer. Let's look inside because it's in a Torah higher level. The Rebbe will bring several examples. Gimel. But as Verstehen Behagdim will understand this by first introducing Behagdim was in Kitzur und Arichus. When we talk about short or length in an Indian Sikhli, giving over an idea, a matter of intellect, to give it longer or shorter. Which is greater? Which is higher? A lengthier idea or a shorter idea? Which one is higher? It would seem sometimes we say that length longer is greater, sometimes we say shorter is greater. It brings down. There is an advantage. Short has in it an advantage over length. The Rambam schreibt b'negei zu divrei HaMishnah. The Rambam says the words of the Mishnah are short relative to the Gemara. The Gemara is at length. So the Rambam writes, b'negei divrei HaMishnah, as they seinen mesuderin an oifen, they're organized in such a way from dover kotzer, it's a short matter, but it includes lots of different. As opposed to Gemara, Mashenkin Gemara, as opposed to Gemara, was L'shoina Barichas, the language of the Gemara is at length. This difference between the Gemara and the Mishnah is also said a difference between the earlier commentaries and the later commentaries. The earlier commentaries are short, the later are more at length. We say with regard to the later ones relative to the earlier ones, as darkom lefarish, that their way, the later ones, is to articulate bisignain achar, in a different style, as the idea, this intellectual idea, as it's in the source, the Achronim give it a different style. I'm sorry, I didn't read it right. The Rebbe says, "V'signon achar, v'disvores sichlich steht b'mekoiro is imer b'kitzer." The way the idea, intellectual idea, is in its source, it's shorter. Und der Ariches kommt, and the length of the idea comes about b'shas men darf sie herabtragen, when you need to bring it down, fun ir mocker, from its source, to madreges hamekabel, to the level of the recipient, as for example from the Mishnah, the Gemara, or from the Rishonim to the Achronim, From Mishnah and Gemara, from the Mishnah and Gemara, from Gemara to Learndim, then from the Gemara to those who learn, in order for an idea to come down, it has to be done at length. So that's where we find that the length is bringing the idea down on a lower level. But on the other hand, Zogn Chazal, we have our sages tell us that la'olam yishana odom letalmide b'derech kitzorim. A person should always teach his student the short way. Why should you teach short? Weil wenn der Talmud wird nicht kennen, aufnehmen, the ariches umercha v'aseichel v'ha'inyan. You can't will not be able to accept the length and the width of this idea and the subject matter. It's too much. Therefore, darf man übergeben dem Talmud nur a kitzur devarim. So you give him over only an abridged, a shorted version of these matters. Was his masim to seine klei hasoga, which is fitting to his abilities to grasp. Das heißt, that means as der Kitzur is verbunden mit dem Talmud, sein die Glamata Glagabe Rav. That means that the reason for being short is associated, its style, because the students is on a lower level than the teacher. So giving the child less, in this case, as in the last case, means giving Bekitzer means that he's on a lower level. He can't take the full level. So the full level is higher, low level is lower. On the other hand, you're saying that the Mishnah, the Mishnah relative to the Gemara, the short is the higher level and the length is the lower level. So how do we look at when we see things are short and length, which is higher than the other? And the Rebbe explains that within two different levels, the shorter is the higher level. But within the level itself, over there, the length is lower. Let's look inside. Dalet. Yeshleimer der Birubes, and we can say the explanation. As wendt sich wegen welcher Madreges that it depends about which level we're talking about. Wenn der Meduber is wegen dem Yachas zwischen zwei Welten. When you are discussing the relationship between two different worlds, which means two different madreges b'havona seichel. You're talking about steps, understanding, and intellect. Was eine is a sach hecher von der zweiter, which one is way higher, much higher than the other one. Two different categories of understanding. As vidar chiluk, as the difference between Balei HaMishnah and Gemara. The authors of the Mishnah were on a much higher level than the authors of the Gemara. Or when you want to compare the Gemara and the Rishonim, the Gemara and the first ones, or Rishonim and Achronim, in which the level is on a total different level. Is was hecher der Seichel gefindt sich, the higher the intellect finds itself. Als mer bekitzer is der Eufen wer steht dort. It's the shorter it is, the way it's written over there. The higher the level, it's shorter. Weil dort is the etzem svara begilu, because over there, the essence of this svara is open, so you don't need arichas. Mizet glach the memes, you see immediately the truth. Was niedriger, and when you go to change the level, the lower you go, sees the madrege vu der seichel gefindt sich. The lower the step in which we find where you want to get that intellect, mus dezelfde svara onkum, and that same idea needs to come on to their bir varichas, to the explanation and the length of that particular world. Kidei, Mizal Ken and those first things you can understand. And the Rebbe wants to bring also in the brackets a similar idea is the difference between one hears and one sees. The Rebbe is saying that comparing totally different levels to each other. The higher level is shorter. It sees the truth right away. The lower level needs to come down more to that level. And the lower it goes has to come down. Over there, length shows on the descent. And because you need to articulate what is in a point. But the point, the highest level, you can see it. Similar to seeing something and hearing it. You see it all at once, you get the whole picture. Hearing it takes time because it's on a lower level with a lower sense to get. Similar to this, you see it in them Vergleich von Shmiya and Riya when we want to compare hearing to see. The Zach was mit dem Chusha Riya Zetman Kuloi Kerefein, something which the sense of the eye, you can see. With a blink of an eye, you see the whole thing. It needs to take a lengthy time to aufnehmen in order to accept that the same thing, by listening through the sense of hearing, takes a long time. So you change the sense, needs length, needs time. So over there, time represents a descent of the level. As opposed to Maschenken and the Ret in der selber Welt. What you're talking about in the same world, in the same general level, is Hebchadvorim, then it's just the opposite. A hechere, tiefere Svore, a higher, deeper Svore darf onkommen zu mehr Ariches. It needs more or less, more length, bichdei zu bringen verstehen ihr Hecherkeit, Tiefkeit. It needs time, it needs length to bring out in order to be able to understand the greatness, the highness, the depth of it. Und asvore pshute yoser is masbir bekitzer yoser. And if it's something very simple, you don't need length. Mitzat pashtus asvore, because it's so simple, the idea is so simple, zan genug weniger Wörter von hasbora. It's less words of explanation. You don't need to explain it so well. Over there, within the same category, the same world, over there, the deeper the svara, you need to explain it more, articulate it more. And the less explanation is for a simple thing. As euch in der eben gebrachte Dugmois, this is similar, this was fit with the examples we brought. In der Madrege, in der Welt von Mishnah, within the step in Mishnah itself, the Gabi Gemara, when you take Mishnah next to the Gemara, werden die Svoris Amukis herausgebracht bekitzer, the deep Svoris are brought out short Benach HaGemara, the Gemara. Aber in Welt von Gemara Gufa, but within the world of Gemara itself, Yetzbei, seinen die Svoris Amukis Barichas Yoser. Over there, the deep ideas are length more. Und die Svoris Pshutta is mehr bekitzer, the simple Svoris more bekitzer. Within the Gemara itself, it's the opposite. It's not short, it's lengthier. Is the deeper the Svara is, the more length you need for it, and the simpler it's less. And this that Rebbe brings out is also explains in our situation of Shaita Chode, Yema Chode, Riga Chode. The time. Therefore, hey, that man echt verstehen, echt bin Yonenu, also understand in our case. Bechlole seinen die drei Darges Hanal in Tshuva eingeteilt in zwei. Generally, these three levels can be divided into two. Die zwei Dargis Horishonis seinen in Suk von Tshuva Tato. The first two levels Sur Merav Asitoiv are the lower level of tshuva. The Drita Darge is in a category by itself, is tshuva ilah. So now we made them into two distinct categories. Tshuva ilah, that's the tshuva debaki sholem v'redfeu, the higher level of bina. That's its own category. The Sur Merav Asitoiv are both part of the category of tshuva tator. Which also makes sense. The tshuva Sur Merav Asitoiv, stay away from bad, do good. Those are both action, do and not do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. Asiya, mitzvahs, ushlila, not to do. These two, but the drita tshuva, baki sholim, is limudato. That's study. That's really intellect. That's the world of intellect. So the two categories is either intellect or action. So those are surmirava seitov are action. Underiba. The tshuva was shayich zu moichin. We talk about the tshuva moichin is bekitzur yosef berega chodetz in its own category. It's one instant, while in them hecheren olam haseichel, because in that higher, the world of intellect, moichin, steyen the inyonim begilu yosef, they're openly, more open. The riber darf man nicht onkommen zu arichas. That's why you don't need length. That's why we say riga choda, one instant. But the two tshuvas which are in the category tshuva that in the world of Maisa is in Zayla Hipach. By them, it's just the opposite. The tshuva from Vasei Toiv, the tshuva is a hechere darge, nemt alegin a meshach zman. That takes a longer time. It takes yom echad. Al derech with this forest amuk mukas shabi gemore, similar to the deep soil gemore, but Vasei for the zichmer arichas. Over there, you need more time because it's within the gemore. Over there, lengthier means greater. The Rebbe talked about before more connected to time, but here, lengthier means a lengthier time, lengthier involvement, a lengthier depth. Mashenkin the nidrike targe for surmeda, as opposed to the lower level of just staying away from ra. That just takes a while, instant, right away, less, short while. Al derech with this forest abshuta shebekemora. This would be similar to the simple ideas of the Gemara, was bazei is maspik as bora kitzora, which a short explanation is sufficient. This actually has its practical thing also. I want to point out this actually as ifton v'asei amaisa bepoil, to do. You need more time. Takes a lengthier point of time. Not to do doesn't take any time. Negating doing it. The same thing is true in the Sfiras L'mayla. Sfiras Habina was is in Elam HaMeichel, the Sfiras Habina, which is in the world of intellect. Hecher von Elam Eis. That's an instant. Weil der Eurel Ki dort, while the Eurel Ki is dort meir, betachlis hagil, over there it shines total revelation. Der Far is das in tachlis hakitzer bisman, and that's why it's totally short in time. Rega. Was enke in the spheres von so Malchus, was hob ma shayches zu Eulom, they have a connection, Eulom Hamidis, the world of Midas, the 7 Midas, Zoh and Malchus. Seine Yoime und Scheite, Arichas, nicht Rega. Takes some time, but like the Gemara, in the Gemara, the level of Zos, I say Tev takes longer, and the level of Malchus is Rega because it's not as elaborate as the Rebbe explained. Aber wie bald das in die Spheres Gufa Eilo Amidus ist so hecher von Malchus. within the Spheres Gufa, in the world of the Zoy is higher than Malchus. The Rebbe werd so angerufen Yoima or Malchus Shaita. That's why this is called Yoima. Takes more time deeper, higher, or Malchus Shaita, and lower level, Kenal, as we said before. The Rebbe brings down one more point. There could be yet a fourth level, even though we mentioned here three. There's a girsa which we have a fourth level. And in that fourth level will also be understood based on this explanation that the Rebbe's father explained. Both. Based on the above explanation from my father. As the drei Lishonis and Zoyar as eine Merumis of the drei Dargis Anal Shabbat that they are in the three levels, hinted in the three levels of tshuva, Malchus, Zoh, and Bina. Can be mevaisen on derech Chassidus. We can explain on Chassidus. Euch the Girsa from Ramak, also the version that Ramak has as in the Maimer Hazoyres and Fram Fitlishenes. He brings down a fourth lotion, that which means dargis. Shaita choda, beyoyma choda, but then he also says bezimno choda, in addition to beriga choda. In the Kuta Teire dort is mavur. In the Kuta Teire he explains as a gam bechlol seine dort drei dargis in tshuva, that even though generally speaking there's three levels in tshuva, is aber beproti is voran noch a ferte darga. But more specifically, there's a fourth, even higher level. Was his magia in Sfiras HaChochma. And that higher level reaches all the ways onto the level of Chochma. Uba Avoida, what does it mean? We talked about Sur Merah, Seitev, Bake Sholom Teira, but this Teilum, that Teira, so the Inyan for Kaddish Atzmachov and Mutterloch, to sanctify yourself, even things that are permitted to you, this is the higher level, the fourth level. Yesh Loimar, because say as the Ferte Dargi is Merumas, that this fourth level is hinted in the Ferten Loshen, the fourth of us kumt to in Zoyar, that is added Legirsas Ramak, according to the version of the Ramak, the Zimna Chodem. Agam Rega seems an instant, but Zimna, one while, Agam as Rega is Lechoyre that cleansed the Chelek in Zman. Seemingly, it's the shortest period of time. Is over Fordo the Shailu Tshuva. There's still a question and answer on Bekamo Rega. How much is a Rega? Echad Mechamesh is Chulu, or the answer is 1/5,000. Or Rega Kememre, as long as it takes to say the word Rega, but it's still something. Whether it's a Reis, Reiden, Drai, Oisius, to express three letters, Reish Gimel Ayin. As Hot Agibis Shir has a Mashen kein Zimna Choda is not Magdir kein Shum Shir Zman. A while, it doesn't a Zimna. Does direct not always the Etzim Mitzis Zman. It just expresses it's time, Zimna. According to the continuation of the explanation of the Torah there. As Afal became very befeder shubegolu yiberei v'amakoymes geret. That still, in clearly and openly, most places it discusses Norwegen, drei dargis in Shuva, three level in Shuva. Bal chochma ubinon seinen trade lein lemisparshin. Chochma and Bina are two friends, they don't separate, so we don't have to. If we talk about Bina, we're already talking about Chochma too. The Mele ver de ferte darge nichl in the drite, so that fourth level of Chochma is technically included in Bina. At euch sein Muvan Farvos will also understand why Lifya Girsan of Futzov Regila in Zohar, based on the common language which is spread and common in the Zohar, seine Nordo, do Nordraus, on three languages. But bederich klal, that when Gimel beginnes tshuva genau. Generally, you talk about three levels of tshuva. Bald over as lipomim rechnet men the ferte darga. Sometimes darga in tshuva. Sometimes you do count the fourth level tshuva. The riber is euch farana girsa That's why there is a version for Sis Mefaredoich Didarge in Tshuva. Also explains this level of Tshuva, which is the Shleimus HaTshuva, the wholesome of Tshuva. This is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Chayei Sara Tavshin Lamed Tes.